Jones, and I'm a project manager with the Rural Development Network and also a member of the Alberta Age-Friendly Community of Practice. And I will be your moderator for today's session. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here today. This is our third session in our Diverse Seniors webinar series, and today's session is going to be focused on LGBTQ2S plus seniors. So to begin in the spirit of our journey to promote reconciliation, we'd like to honor the truth of the shared history and acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived on and cared for these lands for generations. We're grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers, the elders, and Two-Spirit peoples who are still with us today, and those who have gone before us. Now we will move into some housekeeping. But before I do that, I would like to acknowledge that today's session just so happens to coincide with Alberta Legislature's fall sitting, where proposed legislation on gender policies is being debated. This legislation has sparked serious concern in the 2S LGBTQ plus community, especially among trans folks and their loved ones, due to the potential impacts these policies may have on trans folks of all ages, really, including older adults. So our hope is that through today's presentation, we'll all gain insights into how we can create a safer, more inclusive environment for those aging in the 2S LGBTQ plus community. So on to the housekeeping items. It's important to us that you're comfortable during the session. So with that in mind, you have free use of your mute and your camera options. For everyone's listening ease, we do ask that you keep yourself on mute during the presentation, unless of course you would like to make a comment. You can, on your screen there, you can pull up the participants list by clicking the participant icon at the bottom of your screen. And if you click that, you'll see an option to also raise your hand, your virtual hand. Later on, we'll be inviting folks to click on that when they want to speak and help us manage. And so it'll help us manage the conversation a bit better. We also encourage folks to use the chat box and share some thoughts and ideas or any questions you might have. And we have Carol as our chat box moderator today, who will help read your messages. Again, if you just joined us, we welcome you, and please share who you are in the chat box. And we can see people have already been sharing their name and location and the organizations they're with. So this presentation is being recorded and will be shared on Core Alberta. If you would like to turn off your cameras or adjust your screen name, you may do so now. All right. So this series is being hosted by the Age-Friendly Community of Practice, the Alberta Age-Friendly Community of Practice, I should say, and is designed, the community of practice is designed to help communities considering or in the process of developing age-friendly plans. In this closed group, members meet regularly and offer support to one another in mentoring and in capacity building around age-friendly initiatives. There's also an open discussion group that's open to anyone interested in the age-friendly concept and its 8 domains. The focus of this group is disseminating information and providing opportunities to ask questions and share information. And members may or may not be involved in an age-friendly initiative to be a part of that. So if you're interested in learning more about age-friendly in these 2 groups, I do encourage you to visit corealberta.ca. So CORE alberta.ca. So what does it mean to be age-friendly? At its heart, age-friendly is a way to help people age actively and healthily by looking at the 8 domains of community life. So those 8 domains are outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, housing, social participation, respect and inclusion, civic participation and employment, communication and information, and community support and health services. So it's all about creating environments, both the physical and social, that support seniors in staying engaged, getting exercise, connecting with others, and being respected in their community. The journey to becoming age-friendly starts from the ground up. It relies on the input and involvement of people of all ages and abilities in every step of the planning process. A key part of the model is developing a community plan, an action plan that pulls together partners to identify what's working well for folks aging in their community and what's holding them back. So each community's age-friendly plan is unique and designed around its specific needs and diversity, with initiatives aimed at reaching as many people as possible. Putting an age-friendly plan into action can start with small local efforts by community members, larger initiatives that need more resources, or a team effort across different groups. Really, the goal is to make our communities inclusive and supportive for everyone as they age. So at its core, an age-friendly environment is one without physical or social barriers, and it's supported by policies and systems and services that allow people to thrive as they age. It's about promoting health and building up physical and mental abilities at every stage of life. Even if someone starts to experience a loss of an ability, they can still do the things that matter to them, right? And they're still included and engaged in their communities. So age-friendly practices helps older adults by supporting them in meeting their basic needs, continuing to learn, grow, and make decisions for themselves, staying mobile, building and maintaining those relationships in the community, and of course, contributing to their communities. These practices really respect the diversity in people's needs and abilities as they age, and they're designed to recognize the different strengths and resources that older adults bring, adapt to those adapt to meet those changing needs and preferences, and respecting their choices and lifestyles, working towards reducing inequities and protecting those who are most vulnerable, and of course, ensuring older adults are included and able to contribute to all areas of community life. So in short, age-friendly practices make sure that our communities are welcoming, adaptable, and supportive places for everyone as they grow older. Seniors are an incredibly diverse group, as we know, coming from different cultural and ethnic backgrounds, gender orientation, sexual orientation, and including folks with disabilities. In Alberta, they span more than 2 generations and have a wide range of skills, wide range of support systems, living arrangements, and backgrounds, and each are shaped by their own experiences. And this series is about exploring how senior serving organizations, age-friendly partners, businesses, and others can build a shared understanding of the needs of our diverse populations and identify ways to be more inclusive. And so through these sessions, the Alberta Age-Friendly Community of Practice hopes to inspire and support local initiatives that create a true sense of belonging for seniors from all walks of life in our communities. In this session, we'll specifically discuss the unique challenges that LGBTQ2S+ seniors may face and look at how we can support their inclusion in age-friendly planning, and also about initiatives communities can take to support a sense of belonging. We're fortunate to have with us today Donna Thorsten and Eric Story. They will share about their organizations and from their perspective how to engage LGBTQ2S+ seniors and what initiatives are working well to support the inclusion of diverse populations of older adults. Following these presentations, there will be time for some questions and answers, which of course you could put in the chat, or you can put them forward and unmute yourself at the end of the presentations. So I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Donna Thorsten. Donna is a proud 50-plus lesbian senior and uses pronouns she, her. Originally from British Columbia, but moved to Alberta in the early 80s, she has seen many changes in Calgary and the province over that time. She's worked in security for a time and then the public library for over 25 years. She pursued a second career and went back to Bow Valley College and got her LPN license. She has now worked as a palliative care nurse at a local hospice for approximately 10 years. Donna started the Rainbow Elders from the early days of its inception and she has always believed in this group because of its inclusion of all the vast members of the Rainbow family. So without further ado, over to you, Donna.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for having me, and welcome everybody. My name is Donna Thorson. I am the president of the Rainbow Elders group here in Calgary. We are a 50-plus 2S LGBTQ group here, and we started back in 2018 just by kind of a fluke kind of group that sort of got together. It actually started from the Calgary Catholic Family Services gave a grant to a young lady named was Katie Haver, and they sent out the meeting notice that this group was meeting for the LGBTQ community for 50-plus group, and people started coming, and the group sort of formulated from there. We had a lot of people, for the first time were able to chat with other elders of the community. Many people were very closeted and hadn't really spoken or talked to other people in years. And it was a real eye-opening experience for me at the very beginning to see these people, because I came out in my 20s and have always been out and very proud lesbian in my community. But I know at times you don't feel very welcome within different aspects of the city, for sure. So when I was actually faced at the very beginning there with people who were showing that they weren't comfortable, being out and being proud of who they were, it made it really important for me to continue on with the group and have it available for whoever needed it in the community. So we started out very small, and we sort of went from there. And we are still a volunteer-run group, and we did get our nonprofit status just this year. We're going to go to the next slide, I guess. So this group is starting to get a lot of people involved in it, and that. So we're trying to formulate all these different links within our community. We have a lot of people that we like to be part of within the community, and there's definitely different aspects that we go through, trying to be aware of who we are within the Rainbow Elders and how we can be used and how we can do these community things together. So we are formulating different organizations in the groups, and having a lot of people aware of what we are doing. So because the group is growing such a large amount, we definitely have a board that has been formulated to try and recognize what we are doing. And we're trying to promote the different things, inclusion within our community, our diverse backgrounds, because our group, the way it is growing, we have 2S people within the group. We have lesbians, we have gay, we have transgender. A large group of these people are just coming out for the first times, because of our different lived experiences, and that, like I say, a lot of people, may have just lost their loved one and decided that they could finally be their authentic selves, so are just coming out for first time. So I've seen who are like a 60-year-old lesbian coming out for the first time, 70-year-old gay men, and we've had 80-year-old trans people coming out for the first time. We've had a number of different people just on the board who are transgender, and you know, because of their lived experience, have also come out late in life. So we're definitely finding quite a phenomenon of people who are coming out later in life, and I think that's a lot of things that have happened that they just A, weren't welcome, A, maybe probably in their family, their biological families, they didn't feel welcome, so they closeted themselves for years. And B, it could be a religious aspect. A lot of people have a lot of trauma with religion, and that is some people have gone through a lot of things within religion. So because religion really hasn't opened up to the LGBT community, so they felt unwelcome being from there. Sorry, can we just go to the next slide, I guess? So because we were such a small little group at first in 2018, and we were very welcome after the pandemic to get a very generous amount from the Chinook Fund that allowed us to get our name out there more. We were more able to put stuff out on social media. We got more pamphlets and handouts and things that gave us our name. So we would like to thank the Chinook Fund in that, and also the Center for Sexuality, two very large groups here in the community of Calgary, for helping us out and getting the Rainbow Elders name out there in the community more. Sorry, in the next slide. So because of the groups, this is a couple of people from our board members in that. So these given us the opportunity to get our name out there. We've started to visiting long-term care centers and assisted living facilities, because this is where one of the first opportunities that we wanted to be in. One of our sort of mission sort of things was to get into these centers and start having discussions, open discussions with people about the community. You know, there is so much misinformation, there is so much homophobia and transphobia out there, and it definitely is a very big core of it in the older community. A lot of misinformation about our community and our trans community. That's been a huge hate group, and I'm afraid a lot of right-wing politics have sort of pushed that agenda against the trans community. And I do remember, you know, back in the 80s when I did the gay lines back in the 80s, when everybody used to call up and ask how things were happening in the community, and that, you know, I remember the 80s. I remember the AIDS crisis, and I remember how gay men were ostracized out of our community. And it was a terrible time, and people and families and groups were all ripped apart because of how the AIDS was looked at and how gay men were looked at the time. And I think this is the same thing too, as they're trying to divide us again by dividing the trans community out of our group, and it's not right. And I don't believe that the UCP and any of their right-wing politics know really anything about the community. They're making very broad statements and a lot of broad information out there, and they're actually not talking to the community at all. You know, they're having these legislations and opinions and things they're putting out there without ever talking to the actual community and people who know these things, like Skipping Stone, and people who within the trans community have information that they should be talking to, the doctors who know this information. And you know, we're going to be there for our trans community in that. So we have been having the discussions. We've gone into different centers like Care West and United Active Living, and we're doing starting a very promotional thing with Silvera for seniors. So we're going to hoping to have really good discussions and frank discussions with these people and open and hopefully get rid of some maybe this misinformation. Next slide is fine. So we have these different things because we are such a diverse group, and we have grown up to be me and another board member, Nia, different safe events for our group. Because we're like 113 people strong now, we're trying to get a lot of safe events where these people feel welcome, and that, these people, a lot of them, for the first times, they're just feeling that it's okay to be their authentic selves. And so we give them different opportunities of things to do. We have our 2 monthly meetings at the Kirby Center, the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We're starting to do potluck socials at Vantage Enterprises. We've done dances at the Parkdale Community Center. We just recently finished our Halloween dance, and that was really fortunate to have the Calgary Parkdale Nifty 50s group help us out with that, because that event wouldn't have done very well with them. So I'd like to thank Devin and her crew, Kyla and Megan, to helping us out to get that working, because that was a very lovely event. So we like to do safe little events around, and the way we are growing, we're going to try and open up more and more of these events around the city and that. And trying to formulate groups even with our youth here in Calgary. Go to the next slide. So with our youth, because we remember as kids, being out and not being out in our youth. I don't remember ever talking, to a friend or teacher or anyone when I was a kid about being gay and what to do about that, or even having discussion. So we want to be there for our youth here in Calgary. We want to be out and available to them. So we formulated a few different groups with the group from the Camp Firefly we've done for a number of years. We've also done it with a group called here in Calgary called Drag for All Ages. It's a youth drag group here run by Shane on You. Definitely got one. I just was with a event for the Center for Newcomers, and there's a excuse me, a young man there from the Alex who would like the seniors to come out there. And I think a lot of the things since the pandemic and a lot of things that were stopped because of the pandemic, they're just starting to come back around again. And might be having more talks, hopefully, with the GSAs again, because we used to love going to the GSAs and the different schools and that. But that whole way of doing that now has changed with the UCP. So we're hoping to get that changed back again and hopefully formulate a little bit more connection with some GSAs. But we are looking forward to going out in that. Next slide. So our past in that definitely has set how we have. Yeah, that's the one. That's Catherine Robertson. She's one of our board members and a wonderful lady that started at the very beginning of the group too. With our members and that, we try to incorporate a lot of different things that people have wanted to do. Catherine is actually paraglider and that, so she did an event. They did a few people went out and did some paragliding with her. Amazing woman. So we do have different events always coming up within the community. We have a tune bingo coming up, and we have our Club Carousel event coming up on December the 7th, when this is one of the first gay clubs that was here in Calgary, and one of our members who is 80 years plus young, Lois Sabo, this was one of the first gay bars here in Calgary. So we're having an event there on Sunday and doing a little bit of history. I'm back in that group again. And I guess it's just like to say we're on social media, Rainbow Elders Calgary. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, get a hold of us via email. And we will also be there on Saturday at the rally at City Hall from 4 to 6, standing up to stop the UCP and trying to stop this stuff against our parts of our community and the trans community. And we're here for whatever we can do to connect the Rainbow Elders with all the different groups in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Donna. I grew up in Calgary, actually, so I do not remember that first club, but I do remember frequently going to Money Pennies in my 20s, and then it changed to Fab, I think. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing the kind of work and advocacy that Rainbow Elders is doing in Calgary, and in ways, folks joining today can be more supportive and create safer environments for folks from the 2S LGBTQ+ community moving through their spaces. And so next up, we do have Eric's story. And throughout his professional career, Eric volunteered with nonprofit and social development programs. Following his 2007 retirement from the manufacturing sector, he was able to increase his community involvement and obtain a Bachelor of Social Work degree as one of his retirement projects. That's a wild project, if you ask me, but kind of cool too. He combines his social work skills with his previous management and governance and volunteer experience to be really very much engaged in the community, and very much focused in social justice issues, primarily in the areas related to at-risk and in-care youth, marginalized seniors, and gender and sexual and gender minority populations. So I am just going to hand it over to you, Eric. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Mary. Well, thank you for inviting me, and just thought I'd tell you a little bit to begin with about the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group. Michael Fair, a former city councillor here in Edmonton and a longtime activist in the community, in 2013 approached a few people in the community and said, I'm really concerned about seniors housing and what happens to people in our community when they are retired and decide to search for alternative housing. So it was started off with the thought of long-term, our dream would love to have a safe and inclusive housing for our community. But in the meantime, maybe we should advocate for that safe and inclusive housing. So a couple of things happened. One was we started an education program to deliver presentations to senior housing providers, residents of congregate housing facilities, senior centers, and we also did a bunch of community lectures at the university, for example, on the faculties of social work, medicine, and psychology. And those education projects are ongoing. We're currently, fortunately, working on a seniors housing complex, inclusive seniors housing project that will probably have somewhere between 60 and 80 apartments in it. If all goes well, we're expecting that we could possibly break ground in 2026. One of the other projects that we did along this way was to start a weekly Aging with Pride meetings. And the whole idea of those were to help seniors in our community make connections, because we are afraid that one of the biggest problems for seniors is social isolation, and for 2S LGBTQ plus seniors, that's a problem even more than for the general population. I think one of the sort of set the tone, a quotation from Alexander Leon, who's a Australian activist, says, "Queer people don't grow up as ourselves. We grow up playing a version of ourselves that sacrifices authenticity to minimize humiliation and prejudice. The massive task of our adult lives is to unpick which parts of ourselves are truly us and which parts we've created to protect us." And because of that, seniors, I look at it, I was professionally closeted and personally out. Professionally, because of the nature of the business I was in and the ownership of the company I worked for. But out on a personal level. And so when I kind of describe that is a shield. If I don't know you, you can only get this far. Only people that I really know and who have proven their trust to me, only those ones can get in to find out who I really am. And the problem with that is that if you're coming out at a later age, you're probably exploring how to have genuine interpersonal relationships. So in some ways, you might be a senior might be coming out at 60, 70, or 80, but still in many ways be like a 14 or a 15-year-old, still trying to establish social connections and understand what it means to have genuine friendships and relationships. But no matter what age anybody comes out, they still bear many of the scars and fears from having grown up in a very different era. Next slide, please, Mary. Oops, no, back one. There we are. So there's a long history of not only discrimination, but of bullying, violence, and rejection. So coming out even into the 80s and the 90s, the standard assumption was that you would lose your job, your apartment, and your family if you came out. There were purges, our history includes purges in the military, in the civil service, and in corporations, because people were considered to be defense or security risks. That's the word I was looking for. Security risks, or just bad moral character, and so on. And so a lot of people were purged, and I think you may have heard of purges. The outcome of that, the official apologies that have happened to folks in our community. In fact, just as an example, there was a gentleman called Everett Clippert who was sentenced to a lifetime imprisonment for having consensual sexual relationships, same-sex sexual relationships. So back when we were growing up, same-sex attraction was considered a mental illness, and those who were transgender were considered to have gender dysphoria. And so overall, the attitude was that people in our community were sick, perverted, and molesters of young children. So the next slide, please. So the logical outcomes of some of this is, self-esteem. If somebody is always telling you that something is wrong with you, eventually some of that has to be absorbed to become part of your personality. For many, the effect of the AIDS crisis in the 80s and the 90s was a sense of fatalism. We needn't worry about growing old because it's most likely we wouldn't. And I'm going to use the term 2S LGBTQ plus is a little bit long. I'm going to use the abbreviation of queer, and please remember that is a reclaimed name. And for many people, the word queer still brings back very bad memories. I used to say that when I heard the word queer, I expected a fist to be following it immediately thereafter, but I'm going to use it, but I just warn people to be very careful about using it. So many seniors had a lifetime of struggling to figure out who they were. And we need to be very mindful about things that might trigger a senior, about thinking of other things that might have happened in their past. So the impact on self-esteem, mental health, the lack of a support network, if you can't form genuine relationships, then exactly how deep are your relationships? They can disappear overnight. Isolation, if nobody, if I am a pervert, nobody wants me, then I tend to become more isolated. Self-medication has been a big problem in our community, and very much a reluctance to seek medical attention until absolutely necessary because of a fear of the medical community. So, naturally, the bill that's currently being discussed in the legislature is triggering quite a few people because it seems to be a desire to return to the olden days where discrimination, violence, and bullying were common. Next slide, please. So being an ally, and that's what we kind of hope most people are, and that is, expressing empathy and affirming. Now, there's a spectrum, starting with tolerance over to affirming. I know what it's like to be tolerated, and I don't really like that sensation. Tolerating is, yeah, I may not like you, but it's okay for you to be here. Whereas affirming is, yes, I validate you as a person, I validate your concerns, and let's respect each other as individuals. So I'm very, very, very much, when people are talking about our community, the affirming concept is very important. Casual comments, speaking up. If you hear something, those damn perverts are trying to corrupt our children, say, well, wait a minute, a drag queen has never killed children while reading at the library where other members of society have done various things like that. Advocacy on their terms. One of the fellows that I knew was in a seniors living facility and was being bullied constantly. And I asked, may I intervene for you? And his answer was no. This is really unpleasant, but I'm living in a subsidized seniors building. If I start to cause a ruckus, what's going to happen to me? I can't afford to go out on the open market. And if my name is circulated as a troublemaker within the subsidized housing community, what am I going to do? So very unfortunate, but that goes to the principle of the education, talking to the housing provider, and also to the residents to talk about what it means to be a good friend, to be have good relationships. And the next slide, please. Oh, back one more. There we are. This is from the famous, I will hold it up. This is the toolkit for inclusion, which was developed by the Edmonton Social Planning Council and Age-Friendly Edmonton. And one of the things that I want to focus in on this is to make a respectful place. Do staff have training in cultural competence? Do they have training in diversity and inclusion frameworks dedicated to inclusion? And have they engaged in activities to learn about some of their ingrained biases? And a lot of places will say, geez, we gotta, maybe you're under pressure from one or two residents or from members and say, we need to do something about making this place inclusive. Let's just throw up a bunch of rainbow flags around the place, and that's great. You really need to focus, make sure everybody is on board. This was last year, I won't name the seniors center, but a gentleman called the senior center and said, I'm a gay man. Is it okay for me to come and attend any events at your facility? And the answer was, well, you know, we're not a sex or dating club. And that was absolutely, the man was shattered. He called me and he was just absolutely shattered. That, you know, even worse than putting up a poster and say, you know, if you put up a poster and say, this is an accepting place, and then if everybody on the team is not on board, it can cause a huge surprise and create a level of disappointment for people. So this is just one of the questions. Then we will, you know, we will, sorry, I just saw a pop-up from the chat that sort of threw me, but in any case, it's very important to make sure that everybody is on board with the training, and that if they are going to be contacting the public, they certainly need to know that remarks like that are not appropriate. The last slide, please. So respectful conversations, and that's, for us, that's what we find is the most important part to advocate for. And that is, one is to listen, to hear, not to respond or rebut. So to genuinely try to absorb what somebody is saying, to reflect, to take time on what was said. It's not easy on a hot button issue. If somebody says something that really triggers me, it's really hard to keep my tongue under control and continue to listen to what they're saying instead of immediately responding. Respect. People have the right to different opinions, and you can disagree with somebody's opinion, but not disagree with them as a person. Recognize the power dynamics that are based on the individual identities, so that some identities have been given more privilege while other voices have been discriminated against. And calling in versus calling out, and that's the biggest challenge for me, is if I hear somebody making a very, what I consider bad comment, instead of attacking them for that, saying, you know, can you tell me more? Can you tell me what the basis of that is? Can you tell me why you have this feeling? Try to call people into the conversation instead of out of it. The last two things I want to talk about, two items on respect and respectful conversations. I wish I could remember the name of the author, but I can't, so just bear with me. But one is, respect in any conversation is like air. When it's present, nobody thinks about it. When it's absent, we can't think about anything else. And so I think people are really attuned to picking up on respect in a conversation. The second is, when a conversation takes place, it's taking place on two levels: what we're nominally talking about and the flow of emotions that are taking place as we talk. Is this conversation making more safe or more secure, or less safe and less secure? Last item, I'd like to thank the SAGE Seniors Association here in Edmonton, the Pride Center of Edmonton, the City of Edmonton, and the Edmonton Community Foundation, who have all been very, very strong supporters to us. And I'm very jealous of our colleagues in Calgary. We have had enormous problems trying to get seniors from our community to come out and participate in events. Our focus has mostly been organizational, to be talking to seniors and senior serving organizations to educate them on some of the challenges of the past, and so on. But our Aging with Pride group has got a very small but loyal following, and we try to provide information there that's of interest to seniors in general, but also to seniors in our community. That's it. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Eric, for your presentation and sharing ways people can make that genuine effort in creating inclusive spaces for the 2S LGBTQ+ community, and of course, older adults within the community, and great inclusion around those thoughtful ways to have conversations and with respect and rooted in respect and that allyship, right? Super important. And again, thank you, Donna, for sharing all of that meaningful work you and the Rainbow Elders are doing in Calgary. It's amazing. And I would like to put it forward to the participants here today. Put it out to the folks here. If you have a question for our panelists, either Eric or Donna, you could type your question in the chat or click the reactions at the bottom of your screen there and put up your virtual hand, and I can call on you and you can unmute. So I'm just going to go over to the chat. Okay. So I'm going to read this out. From CD. Hi, Eric. Thanks for sharing your experiences. Very valuable. You mentioned you were professionally closeted and personally out, so I have two questions for you. What are your thoughts around the need for older LGBTQ+ employees to be out and visible in corporations today? And do you have any suggestions or recommendations for how LGBTQ employee resource groups can create safe spaces for older LGBTQ workers, out and not out, to join while respecting their privacy and decisions whether or not to be out? Oh, you're just on mute, Eric. It's okay. I still do it all the time.
It's like a seance, you know, people, are you there? Can we hear, can you hear me? Anyways, so yeah, that's a really tough question. That one is that I'll sort of blend it. Yes, it's really important for us to be able to express ourselves as individuals, and the older we get, I think the more important that becomes. The changes in legislation, forcing the government of Alberta to write non-discriminatory, non-sex orientation discrimination into their Bill of Rights. So that took a hammer to be done, but it was done. So it is now safer. If somebody is fired, they can actually go to the Human Rights Board and they can actually have their case heard. So that's very positive. I think a lot of older, a lot of larger organizations, and unfortunately, if you're in Toronto or Vancouver, there's an awful lot of very large organizations. I read once that, the majority of employees in Alberta are members of, companies of under 50 people. And so that gets a little bit hard. I know large corporations, like certainly the Toronto Dominion Bank, has got a fantastic support group within, that. And actually, the unions now, when I was working, I would negotiate contracts with the Teamsters, the Steelworkers, and the Energy and Chemical Workers Union, none of whom I perceived to be friendly at that time. A couple of years ago, I ran into a rep from the Steelworkers Union who said, man, oh man, things have changed. We are now really supporting people. So that would have been nice, 20 years ago. So things change, things get better slowly. But yes, I think it is very important for employees, if you need to be comfortable in your own skin. If it is safe to come out, yes, come out. Maybe to come out to a couple of co-workers who you view as friendly. But the biggest important thing is to be safe. Personal safety is so important. It comes down to a personal thing. And for allies, you can show within an organization, yes, I am an ally. Yes, I support this. And so if you want to come out, I'm a safe person to come out to. And that's done by just your daily, not laughing at the jokes that we have all heard. One thing I should talk about seniors is that we have all heard absolutely horrible things said about us by friends, family, co-workers. when I finally did come out to some of the people that I had worked for in the past, one of them was very, very angry with me because he said, I would not have said those things if I knew you were gay. Well, is that an apology or is it an excuse? Anyways, hope I answered your questions, and that was very long-winded. I apologize.
No, not long-winded at all. I encourage the long-winded. Hopefully everyone else does too. Actually, when you were talking, or before you started talking, you had mentioned to Donna how there is that struggle that you've noticed in encouraging older adults in the 2S LGBTQ+ community, specifically in Edmonton, like in everyone getting out together and going to events. And so it made me think of a question for Donna. If that was in fact something you ever noticed struggle with in the beginning, or maybe like over time, with exception to COVID, of course, when there is all sorts of things going on. Like, are there certain strategies or things that that you found yourself and the Rainbow Elders could do to encourage engagement with everyone?
I guess that's a real personal opinion for a lot of people, how to come out in
Mhm.
that. We do try to get our names out as much as we can, but I guess it always has difficulty for each person to do it. Like I say, I mean, with all of our different lived experiences, that a lot of us do have traumas that we've had to deal with throughout our lives. Definitely, I've seen some of our 80-year-olds that have gone through, the military purges and a lot of other things that have happened with our government, and even the bathhouse raids, that happened numbers of years ago. So there's definitely things that people have difficulties with in that. So take that first step and come out, I think it's a very brave for anyone who can actually do it in that. And when I see them come to these meetings for the first time, I know they're shaking in their boots, they just don't know what they're walking into, but we're open and we're welcoming, and I'm trying to let everyone know that we're here for them. We're their family now. Some of them probably don't have anyone left in that. Definitely a lot of them are separated from the biological families, and over the years, definitely isolation and other things have made them into this very, so if they can come out now, I'm hoping that they can take that step, and we're here for them wherever they can be. We're here for them.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. And I think that's the important piece, right? Is folks, well, I guess knowing you exist, but also knowing that it is a safer place to come out, be who you are, and maybe even eventually go out into the community together on whatever events you're getting involved in, which it sounds like you tend to, the Rainbow Elders tend to plan things and get folks together, which is absolutely lovely. And I just, I saw actually another question in the chat here. Oh, okay, it's just more of a conversation, I suppose. Just two participants, does anyone have policies related to acceptance or interactions between individuals, or for example, bullying? And Peggy here has mentioned in here as well, creating safety and positive work environments, especially preventing sexual harassment for LGBTQS Q2S plus individuals. So at ASAS, which I know is the Alberta Association of Sexual Assault Services, we have they've created a campaign to create positive engagement strategies. So it's just linked in the chat here. And let's see. Yeah, and Lona also mentioned here, attitudes have changed in employers, and educated youth are often those leading this change in the community. A challenge for senior groups is that while some have been educated by younger folks, others have not. How do senior groups educate their members on this in a way that promotes safety. So I guess this could be for both Eric and Donna. So how do senior groups educate their members? So how like the way I guess I'm understanding this is, you know, if an older adult in the 2S LGBTQ community is entering a space, a senior serving organization, or maybe it's just like Eric, that example about somebody just wanting to go and do an activity or join something. How can people within that organization ensure that the other people or participants in the activity are also a part of promoting that safety, right? And that so that bullying doesn't happen. Yes,
Could I-
Eric.
Yeah, a couple of, one, I should mention that the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group, we've run several intergenerational events with the Dragon Youth and a few other, you know, with participating in GSA conferences and so on. I think one of the things is I hate to always be dealing with past grievances, but I think it's really important. I did a presentation at the social work faculty last year. And one of the kids afterwards said, "You mean there was a time you guys couldn't get married?" And I thought, I guess I missed that part of, you know, somehow that part of the conversation got missed. But the whole idea about saying to somebody, yes, we can get married now. You know that. I remember Ralph Klein threatening to use the notwithstanding clause and the vitriol that was in the daily newspapers and so on. That it's very, very important. As I say, I don't like to dwell on past grievances, but it really is important for the younger people to understand the history, to understand why certain elements, certain things might be triggering to them. That's really it. That's all I can say. It's talking. Oh, sorry. The last is I used to be radical. When I was in my 20s, I'd be demonstrating on the streets in Montreal and that sort of thing. Now I think it's conversation. So one thing I want to say is that I grew up in a time where all of the media was, you guys are sick, perverts, child molesters, etc. As a gay man, I had to challenge that because I had to say, good Lord, I taught Sunday school. I'm not a bad person. But and I'll pick on a farmer living in Vegreville who has never knowingly met a gay person. Knowingly is the important thing. They never had to challenge. They were fed this, and there was no reason not to believe it. So, for me, the calm, rational explanation of here's some of our history, here's why some of things scare us. I think that's more important than the yelling at somebody. Saying that, I am going to be at the legislature building on Saturday afternoon because it does make everybody nervous. I'm sorry, again, that was very long-winded.
No, not at all. And yeah, I think this ties back into what you were saying earlier about the calling in and calling out piece. I think, you know, even for myself, I remember like, you know, being in my early 20s and just not being able to regulate anything. So it's like you're trying to have a conversation, but you're so defensive that people just simply can't hear you anymore. And you're being scary, maybe. Yeah. So I think that's a very good point to like learning who is your audience and how to have these conversations with folks in a way that's accessible for them and in a way that they're able to learn, right? As opposed to being turned off and just closing their ears. But yeah, okay, thank you, Eric. And Donna, I don't know if you had anything else to add in that. If not, that's okay.
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. So some more conversation in here. So a comment. Okay, another question. So knowing that large populations of seniors will be retiring soon and some will need long-term care, what policies are we missing in long-term facilities that will foster welcoming, safe environments for seniors. I'm not sure if either Eric or Donna can speak to any gaps that you're aware of.
Can't shut me up. And I apologize, Donna. I'd love to throw this over to you afterwards. But one of the things is that the Alberta Health created some great material. And Alberta, all long-term care facilities are under the authority, or were under the authority of Alberta Health. I guess they're now under the Minister of Community Services and Alberta Health created some wonderful material on being respectful for 2S LGBTQ seniors in care. I just went to their website the other day. They happen to have removed the piece on trans seniors. And I expect other pieces of material to disappear slowly over time. But that is the question is really talking to, we spent a lot of time speaking with Alberta Health, and a few of our members participated in creating that material for Alberta Health. And again, it's education, it's talking to the leadership. Unfortunately, right now, a certain amount of it is talking to the wall. Donna, what are your thoughts?
Get this thing unmuted here. Yeah, I think too it is a difficulty too with the our present government here, because they have their own agendas and that, and they're trying to push it forward. And I'm afraid it is going down and filtering down through Alberta Health Services and through into the long-term care facilities and that too. Policies need to, reflect the change in society, and our trans community is a huge part of that. The lesbian gay community are strong advocates and have been for years, but our trans community is being ostracized and being segregated from us. And that's why the rest of our community needs to stand up for them. And these policies need to push forward, and we need to keep it on the agenda. We need it to be on the table, and have these people talk about it. And it is difficult to get into these places sometimes and to change policies and things like that. And we just hope by being out there and open in that these discussions will not be tabled and will not be done behind closed doors.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Donna. And thank you, Eric, as well. I have another comment here from CD. So history is so important, especially since for LGBTQ plus folks, their stories are often told by members who are not from the community. So please continue to share those stories and educate the youth. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, CD. A message here from David. I recently organized a theater group to deliver a play to 6 seniors groups. Although we targeted mutual respect, older sexuality, and sexism, but we did not have the courage to tackle gay issues. The results were such that now we think that we should go back in with a presentation on gay issues. Donna has been involved with a couple of organizations. Does she think that this approach might work?
Thank you, David. Nice to see you here this morning. Gay issues, in a public format, are difficult to do, I think, at present, just because there is so much out there, and to present it into theatrical format, to develop something like that, maybe other people with other ideas maybe could come up with something that would be able to be presentable like that, David. Yeah, I'm not too sure how to actually put that out there. Have you had any theater presentations in your groups at all?
There is a group in Edmonton called geriactors, who are older folks who get together and actually write plays based on their experience. So it's a very, very interesting cultural thing. They have done one or two where they've focused on the issue of being a gay or a lesbian person. Just one more thing I'd like to add, and they were very well received. So I don't think you need to be. I mean, it's a question of establishing a relationship, establishing a same-sex relationship, having respect for that as much as you would respect a heterosexual relationship. The last thing that I'd like to say is that in many cases, for us gays and lesbians, life is not too bad right now if you compare it to what it was in the past. For trans individuals, it's still 1952 in most cases. And that is why I think our community is very, very concerned with what's going on right now, is because it not only, our brothers and sisters who are being impacted with an awful lot of negative comments in public, but it also, if they're doing that to them, how long till they start going back to us as well. So I think it's really important to support friends, to affirm friends, to say, yes, you are a good person. Yes, I believe in you. Sorry.
Thank you, Eric. I have a comment here, which I think was possibly tied into the conversation about policy. So Bon Swanson had mentioned, even if you do get in the ear of leadership, it feels like they just think you're one of the good ones, and then they continue on with their agendas.
And in which case, my answer is, when sort of feeling that patting me on the head and say, yes, little boy, just go away and let the adults look after the important stuff in the room. And my answer when I feel that I'm getting that type of reception is, no, I seriously want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to make the lives of people better, the lives of everybody that comes into your organization, not just the white, straight, heteronormative people. We created, sorry, again, I'm going to go off on a long tangent, but this toolkit for inclusion, we started it by saying, how can we make gays, lesbians, and trans folks more accepted into communities? And then we sort of backed up and said, wait a minute, inclusion is inclusion. Let's not only worry about the gays, lesbians, and trans, let's figure out a way to create systems that are acceptable for people with disabilities, for different languages, refugees, immigrants, so on.
Yeah, I think there's it just reminds me of the philosophies around inclusive design, I think, where I'm totally probably going to butcher the philosophy, but something along the lines of, like, if you build it out based on those who have historically been the most marginalized, had the least amount of resources, it's just going to by nature be inclusive for all. So I always kind of like to think about that philosophy. And you kind of touched on that, Eric. Any other questions from participants here? Oh, you know what? Maybe I have something. Do you have, Donna, maybe I'll start with you. This is an easy question. How can folks get in touch with you, Donna, if they wanted to chat with you about Rainbow Elders or?
Yeah, we're on many social media sites now, because we did get a lot of money did get from the Chinook Fund. We were very fortunate to get grants from them. So we're on Facebook at rainbowelders.calgary.ca. You can email us at rainbowelders.calgary@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which we don't do very much on Twitter anymore. but Instagram for sure. But if you basically Google Rainbow Elders Calgary, you'll definitely get a hold of us. And either myself or one of the lovely volunteer board members that we have. I have 5 people on the board now, and very fortunate to have all these lovely people like Catherine, Nia, Tina, Michelle, and Abby, who are very committed to the group and have come up with some wonderful ideas of us going forward. And yeah, any of that ways you can contact us very much. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Donna. And Eric, how can people find you?
Okay, well, I'm just putting our website, epsg.ca, is currently under redevelopment. And so hopefully in another 2 weeks, it'll be ready for prime time. And there is a request, an area there where you can type into info@espg.ca, and one of us will get back. The other is there is on the website, there is a place to sign up for our newsletter. We normally send out a newsletter about 2 to 3 times a year, just updating on what's happening with the housing project and some of the other things that we're involved in. The Aging with Pride. I'm going to put my email address into the chat right now and stall as I talk because I don't type very well. But if anybody is interested in the Aging with Pride project and what we're doing and maybe getting onto the mailing list for that group, then please just send me an email at eric.r.story@gmail.com. And I'd be more than happy to put you on our mailing list for the Aging with Pride. We do send out a weekly mailing saying what we're doing this coming week. So yeah.
Awesome.
Happy to talk to anybody.
That's great. And I feel like we're coming to an end to our time.
Sorry,
but
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Lona just put in, could you please share the link to your inclusion tool? And I don't have that preloaded, but I know Carol should have that preloaded to pop back into the chat right now.
Yes.
If you could.
Yeah, she'll do that. So yeah, a big thank you, Donna and Eric, for sharing today. Again, it's unusually timed, but very important for us to still be present today and discuss how important it is that we understand how to be allies, how to create a safer environment for folks in the 2S LGBTQ+ community. And a heads up as well, like this has been recorded, as we all know, so it will be available if folks need to look back at things. And a link to the session survey will also be put in the chat. I'd like you to take a couple minutes if you can, folks who are here today, to provide feedback. It really helps us develop our other presentations. And lastly, as I mentioned, this is the 3rd session of Diverse Seniors Webinar Series, and I would encourage you all to visit corealberta.ca to register for the remaining sessions or to view recordings of those past sessions we've already have. So those next sessions coming up are Indigenous Seniors, November 21st, and Seniors Living with Disabilities, December 12th. Again, you could find more information at corealberta.ca. And in the meantime, in between time, please check in with your trans friends and trans loved ones, make sure they're doing okay. And I wish you all the best, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks again, Eric and Donna.